The crack of flesh on flesh. Blood spraying across white tile. An elderly black woman's head snapping sideways from the force of Marcus Caldwell's hand across her face. "I said extra bacon!" he screamed, his gold Princeton ring cutting deep into Lorraine Washington's cheek. She crashed into the counter, her glasses shattered. Customers froze mid-bite. The entire diner watched a 28-year-old billionaire's son beat a 62-year-old widow over breakfast. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. Nobody dared. Except the man in the corner booth. The one with the Navy SEAL trident tattooed on his forearm. The one whose mother was now bleeding on the floor. Isaiah Washington's coffee cup stopped halfway to his lips. His jaw clenched. His eyes locked on Marcus Caldwell with the cold precision of a sniper acquiring his target. And Marcus Caldwell had no idea he'd just signed his own death warrant. If this story moves you, if you believe justice still matters, subscribe right now, hit that bell, and comment below with your city. I want to see how far this message travels. Now let me tell you what happened next, because what Marcus Caldwell didn't know would change everything. Lorraine had worked this diner for 9 years straight. Never missed a shift, except the week they buried her husband, Reverend James Washington. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of 4:30 mornings and aching feet, and serving coffee to anyone who walked through that door with the same dignity her mama taught her. But dignity didn't stop Marcus Caldwell's hand. The diner held its breath. 12 customers frozen. Farmer Joe Henderson, fork halfway to his mouth. Schoolteacher Barbara Mills, hand over her heart. Young couple, David and Keisha, with their twins, staring at violence their parents tried to shield them from. Nobody moved, because everybody in Memphis knew the Caldwell family. Victor Caldwell owned half the commercial real estate in the city. His brother sat on the city council. His name was on the cancer center at Baptist Memorial. The Caldwell Foundation sponsored everything and made sure everyone knew it. In a city of 650,000 souls, the Caldwells were untouchable royalty. And Marcus, their golden boy, Princeton-educated and trust fund loaded, had spent 28 years proving royalty could do whatever it pleased. "You're going to remake this plate," Marcus said, stepping closer. "And you're going to smile while you do it. Understand?" Lorraine's hands trembled, reaching for the plate. Her apron with the yellow flowers she'd embroidered herself had coffee splattered across it. She'd been up since 4:30. Her feet ached, her back hurt, and now her face burned. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "That's what I thought." Marcus adjusted his polo shirt, glanced around the room, daring anyone to challenge him. None of them would. That's when his gaze landed on the man in the corner booth. Gray t-shirt, worn jeans, coffee untouched. Mid-30s, brown skin, military short hair, broad shoulders. Could have been anyone. Construction worker, truck driver passing through. Unremarkable. Except the way he sat made Marcus pause. The stranger wasn't frozen like everyone else. He was still, but different. Controlled. Deliberate. Like a coiled spring. His eyes, dark brown and unblinking, locked directly on Marcus with an intensity that dropped the temperature 10 degrees. No fear. No outrage. No expression. Just watching. Calculating. Marcus felt something cold slide down his spine. Instinct. The kind that remembered when humans were prey. He shook it off. This was his city. His family's city. "Something I can help you with, buddy?" Marcus called across the room. The stranger didn't respond. Didn't blink. Right hand flat on the table. Left hand in his lap. Not threatening, just ready. Marcus waited for an answer that didn't come. The silence stretched. Lorraine retreated toward the kitchen, plate clutched to her chest, blood trickling down her chin. She pushed through the door and disappeared. "That's what I thought," Marcus said, but his voice cracked. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the door, expensive sneakers squeaking on tile. He paused at the entrance, looked back. The man had turned slightly, keeping Marcus in sight. Posture unchanged, expression empty. But now Marcus could see something on his forearm beneath the sleeve. A tattoo. Eagle, anchor, trident, pistol. The seal trident. Marcus's stomach dropped. The stranger's lips moved, forming one word Marcus couldn't hear, but understood perfectly. Mama. Marcus Caldwell had just slapped a Navy SEAL's mother, and the SEAL watched the whole thing. Marcus stumbled into the parking lot. His Mercedes chirped, hands shaking on the key fob, sweat on his forehead despite the cool October morning, heart hammering. Just some veteran eating breakfast, he told himself. Memphis was full of veterans. They served their time, came home, lived normal lives. But that look, those eyes. Marcus had seen tough guys before. College athletes, club bouncers, security guards. None of it compared to how that SEAL looked at him. The man looked at Marcus the way a surgeon looks at a tumor. Clinical. Patient. Already knowing where to cut. Marcus peeled out, leaving rubber on pavement. Didn't know where he was going. Just away. Inside the diner, the spell broke. Customers murmured. Joe Henderson shook his head. Barbara pulled out her phone, fingers shaking. David held Keisha's hand while their daughters asked why the mean man hurt the nice lady. Cammy Chen rushed to the kitchen. Cook Ray Martinez stood at the window, knuckles white, jaw clenched. Only the stranger remained motionless. Captain Isaiah Washington, United States Navy SEAL. 16 years of service, 7 combat deployments, Silver Star, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor, Purple Heart. Had just watched a privileged child strike his mother and walk away like it meant nothing. He lifted his coffee cup without tremor, took a slow sip, set it down precisely, pulled out his wallet, placed a 10 under the salt shaker, then stood. 6'1", 200 pounds of lean muscle built through years of training most people couldn't imagine. A body designed for violence, but disciplined toward protection. He walked toward the kitchen. The door opened silently. He found her on an overturned milk crate. Tammy pressing a wet cloth to her lip. Ray standing guard, arms crossed. "Mama?" Isaiah said softly. Lorraine looked up, her eyes filled with tears she'd been too proud to shed in front of Marcus. The bruise already forming, purple spreading across her brown cheek. The cut still raw. "Baby," she whispered. "When did you get here?" 20 minutes ago. Thought I'd surprise you after your shift." He knelt, taking her trembling hands in his steady ones. "Surprise." Tammy stepped back. Ray's expression shifted to relief. They'd known Isaiah since he was a skinny teenager washing dishes here, before the Navy, before SEAL training, before deployments turned him into something harder. "Isaiah, please," Lorraine said, reading her son's face. "Just let it go. It's not worth the trouble." "Not worth it?" His voice stayed soft, but something in it made Ray step back. "Mama, he hit you. In public. Like you were nothing." "He's a Caldwell, baby. His family will ruin you. They'll press charges, get lawyers, they'll—" Her voice cracked. "I can't lose you too. Not after your daddy. I can't." Isaiah looked at the woman who'd raised him, who'd worked 2 jobs to keep him in school, who'd sent care packages to war zones, who'd prayed every night when most mothers' prayers went unanswered. Looked at the bruise, the cut that would scar, the humiliation that hurt worse than any wound. "You taught me something, Mama. You and Daddy both. You taught me protecting people wasn't just a job. It was who I'm supposed to be." "Isaiah, I've never forgotten that." He stood. "Not about to start now." What are you going to do? Have a conversation with Marcus Caldwell, then a longer one with his father. They'll destroy you. They'll try. He headed for the back door. Isaiah, wait! But he was gone. Isaiah climbed into his F-150, sat there, hands on the wheel, breathing steady. In 4 counts, hold 4. Out 4. Hold 4. Combat breathing. Keeps snipers calm during 20-hour stalks. Keeps your heart rate down when everything wants to explode. He pulled out his phone. Dialed. 2 rings. Do you know what time it is? 0730 Eastern. Rise and shine, Andre. Sergeant Andre Mitchell, former SEAL Team 6, now cybersecurity in D.C., laughed. Man, I don't miss those calls. What's wrong, Isaiah? You only call when something's wrong. I need a favor. The laughter died. What kind? Deep background, financial records, legal history. Everything on Victor Caldwell and his son Marcus. Caldwell Properties, Memphis. Silence. Then, this about your mama? Isaiah's grip tightened. How did you... Brother, I've known you 12 years. Served with you in Fallujah. Was there when you got the call about your father and couldn't get leave. I know 2 things make you sound like this. Threats to the team or threats to family. We're not deployed, so it's family. Isaiah closed his eyes. Marcus Caldwell slapped my mother in the face this morning. At her job, in front of witnesses, because she didn't put enough bacon on his plate. The silence that followed precedes thunder. Say that again, Andre said, voice dropping to a register Isaiah recognized from hunting days. The tone that meant someone was about to have a very bad day. You heard me. And this Marcus, he's still breathing? For now. What do you need? Everything. Bank accounts, shell companies, sealed records, traffic tickets. Every time this family used money to make problems disappear. The whole picture. How fast? Yesterday, Andre snorted. Preliminary by 1400. Full workup by midnight. This going kinetic? Isaiah thought about his mother's face. The blood. The way Marcus looked at her like she was nothing. Only if they're stupid enough to escalate. Brother, rich folks are always stupid enough. That's how they stay rich. They assume money solves everything. Pause. Watch your 6. Families like that have resources. They'll come at you sideways. Let them come. That's what I'm afraid of. Isaiah, I know that tone. Heard it before Ramadi when you cleared 3 buildings alone for that interpreter's kids. Same sound now. This is different. How? That was business. This is personal. Andre sighed. Personal is when operators make mistakes. When good men end up in bad situations. Promise me you'll be smart. I promise I'll be thorough. Not the same thing. It's what I've got. Isaiah started the truck. Send files encrypted. Bahrain protocol. Copy. And Isaiah, for what it's worth, that boy deserves what's coming. Your mama's good people. Treated us right on leave. Sent me a care package in Afghanistan when my own mother forgot. So you do what you need. Just make sure you can live with it after. Always do. He ended the call. Pulled out. Didn't head home. Didn't head to the Caldwell estate. Instead, drove downtown to Memphis Public Library. Because 16 years of special operations taught him, you don't attack until you understand the terrain. Don't engage until you know their patterns, weaknesses, pressure points. Marcus was a symptom. Victor was the disease. And Isaiah was about to become the cure. The library opened at 9. Isaiah waited at the doors, 8:57, coffee in hand. The reference librarian, 50s, reading glasses on a chain, cardigan, looked up as he approached. Good morning. How can I help? Research on local business history. Caldwell Properties and related companies. Archives back to the 80s? Her expression flickered, recognition mixed with wariness. Memphis Tribune on microfiche to 1950. Business records through Shelby County Register of Deeds at the courthouse. Academic purposes? Isaiah smiled, warm, non-threatening. The smile he'd learned for Afghan village elders when he needed information without intimidation. Research project. How local dynasties built wealth. She studied him over her glasses. Don't get many researchers interested in the Caldwells. Most prefer to forget. Forget what? She glanced around the empty library, leaned forward. Young man, I don't know what you're really after. Not going to ask. But I've worked here 33 years. Remember when the Caldwells were just Victor's father, Vernon? Small-time investor with big ambitions and flexible ethics. Isaiah waited. Patience learned in sniper hides, 18 hours motionless for a target. He could wait. Farm crisis of the 80s, she said finally. That's where it started. Vernon bought distressed properties from black farmers who couldn't make payments. Pennies on the dollar. Foreclosed on families who'd worked that land for generations. By 1990, he owned 43 properties from 43 families. Legal though, right? Unfortunate, but legal. Legal and ethical aren't always the same. She straightened her glasses. Vernon died 2003. Victor inherited everything, expanded. Gentrification became his specialty. Buy low in black neighborhoods, wait for development, flip high. Displace the community that made the neighborhood valuable in the first place. And Marcus? Her expression hardened. Marcus is third generation. Each gets worse. Vernon was ruthless, but followed rules. Victor bends them. Marcus breaks them and expects Daddy's money to clean the mess. Isaiah set his coffee down carefully. You know a lot about this family. My brother owned a soul food restaurant in Orange Mound. Family recipe 4 generations back. Victor wanted the property for condos. My brother refused. Suddenly, health code violations he'd never had in 20 years. Surprise inspections, delayed permits. Anonymous complaints requiring expensive renovations. He spent his life savings fighting it. What happened? Heart attack at 56. We sold to pay medical bills. Victor bought, at auction, for 30 cents on the dollar. Condos went up 6 months later. Called it the Artisan Village. Not one unit under 300,000. Not one black family could afford to move back to the neighborhood they built. She pulled off her glasses, cleaned them with her cardigan. So yes, I know the Caldwells. And if you're researching them, I hope you're planning more than a paper. Isaiah met her eyes. What's your name, ma'am? Dorothy Hayes. Miss Hayes, I'm Isaiah Washington. My mother is Lorraine Washington. Worked at Sweet Home Diner until an hour ago, when Marcus Caldwell slapped her across the face because his breakfast wasn't perfect. Dorothy's hands stilled. My God. Not writing a paper, Miss Hayes. Building a case, and I need every piece of documentation you can help me find. Every article, filing, public record showing the pattern. Because what happened to your brother and my mother doesn't happen to anyone else. Dorothy put her glasses back on. Her expression shifted from sympathetic librarian to co-conspirator. Microfiche is in the basement. Tribune kept better records than most realize. I'll help you search. But Isaiah? Yes, ma'am. The Caldwells have very good lawyers and very short memories for morality. Whatever you're planning, make it airtight. They will come after you with everything. Isaiah smiled. Not warm now. The smile of a SEAL who'd taken down terrorist networks in 7 countries. Miss Hayes, I spent 16 years making bad people have very bad days. The Caldwells are about to learn what that feels like. They descended to the basement. For the next 4 hours, Isaiah did what he did best. Gathered intelligence, identified patterns, prepared to hunt. The basement smelled like old paper and forgotten history. Dust motes floated in the fluorescent light. Dorothy moved between filing cabinets with practiced efficiency, pulling folders, spreading them across a metal table. "Start with 1984, she said. That's when Vernon really ramped up. Isaiah pulled out his phone, started photographing documents. Agricultural foreclosure notices, property transfers, business licenses that changed hands overnight. "Look at this," Dorothy said, sliding a yellowed Tribune article across the table. March 1987. Local developer brings hope to struggling farmers. They made him sound like a savior. Isaiah read the article. Vernon Caldwell offering to buy distressed farmland, promising to hold it in trust, give families first option to buy back when times improved. Quotes from grateful farmers. A photo of Vernon shaking hands with an elderly black couple outside their farmhouse. Did any of them get to buy back? Dorothy pulled another folder. Not one. Vernon flipped everything within 2 years. That couple in the photo? James and Martha Hendricks. Their family had farmed that land since 1889. Isaiah's jaw tightened. Where's the corporate farm now? Subdivisions, 300 homes, average price $650. Not one black family in the whole development. He kept photographing, document after document, a pattern so clear it practically screamed. Here's Victor's start, Dorothy said, pulling a file from 1998. His first big gentrification project. Bought an entire block in South Memphis, 12 properties, all black-owned businesses, barber shop, dry cleaner, corner store, record shop, 2 churches, 6 family homes. What happened? Sudden zoning change, residential to mixed-use commercial. Properties now violating code. Victor offered to buy everyone out. Most held firm. She pulled out another article. Then the citations started. Building code violations, fire code, health department. One by one, they couldn't afford the upgrades. Victor bought each property as they gave up. And built what? Luxury lofts. Historic South Memphis revival. Starting at $400,000. Community completely displaced. Isaiah's phone was filling up. Hundreds of photos. Dozens of properties. Scores of families destroyed. The churches fought back, Dorothy said. Pastor Thomas Williams at Bethel AME. Your father knew him, didn't he? Isaiah looked up. They served on the community board together. Pastor Williams organized the remaining property owners, started a legal fund, filed complaints with the city, got media attention. Dorothy's expression darkened. Then things got ugly. How ugly? Death threats, anonymous calls. Pastor Williams's car was vandalized 3 times in 2 months. His church suffered a mysterious fire. Fire marshal said faulty wiring, but that building had been inspected 6 months prior. Clean bill. Did they prove anything? Never could tie it directly to the Caldwells, but the pattern was clear. Within a year, Pastor Williams accepted a position in Atlanta. Bethel sold their property. Victor bought it through a shell company. What's there now? Parking garage. Isaiah felt something cold settle in his chest. My father tried to continue the fight, didn't he? Dorothy was quiet for a moment. Isaiah, I don't know if... Tell me. She sighed. Thomas picked up where Pastor Williams left off. Started documenting everything. Talking to displaced families. Building a case. He was going to take it to the state attorney general. And? And he died. Heart attack, the coroner said. 49 years old. No history of heart problems. Collapsed in his workshop one evening. Gone before the ambulance arrived. Isaiah's hands stilled on the documents. You think I don't think anything I can prove. But your father's records? The files he'd been building? Never found. His workshop had been ransacked. Police said it was robbery, but nothing valuable was taken, just his papers. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Isaiah stared at the photograph of his father's obituary. Thomas Washington, 1964 to 2013. Survived by wife Lorraine and son Isaiah, serving overseas. He'd been in Afghanistan when it happened. Couldn't get emergency leave for another 3 weeks. By the time he got home, his father was buried, his mother was broken, and the community had moved on. He'd never questioned the heart attack. His father worked hard, stressed about money, carried the weight of the community. These things happened. But now, looking at the pattern, the timeline, the convenient disappearance of evidence. "Miss Hayes," Isaiah said quietly, "I need copies of everything." "Already making them." She gestured to an old copy machine in the corner, humming as it worked through a stack of documents. "But Isaiah, if what I'm thinking is true, if they were willing to—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Then they've already shown me exactly how far they'll go." Isaiah stood. "Which means I know what I'm up against." His phone buzzed. Text from Andre. "Preliminary data incoming. Check your secure email. This family is dirtier than we thought. Call me ASAP." Isaiah opened his laptop, logged into his encrypted account. Andre had sent a compressed file with a warning. "Big. Real big. Brace yourself." He opened it. The first document was a corporate structure chart. Caldwell Properties at the center, but spreading out like a spider web. Shell companies, offshore accounts, partnerships with politicians, connections to 3 city council members, 2 state legislators, and a federal judge. The second document was Marcus's sealed juvenile record. Andre had somehow obtained it. 3 assault charges before age 18, all dismissed. All victims had suddenly refused to testify. All had received mysterious financial windfalls shortly after. The third document made Isaiah's blood run cold. A contract. Private security firm called Sentinel Solutions. Payment, $2 million. Client, Victor Caldwell. Date, 2 weeks after Thomas Washington's death. Services, asset protection and threat neutralization. "Ms. Hayes," Isaiah said, voice tight, "did anyone investigate my father's death beyond the coroner's report?" "Not that I know of. Why?" He showed her the contract. Dorothy's face went pale. "Oh my God. I need to make a call." Isaiah stepped away, dialed Andre. "You see it?" Andre answered immediately. "Sentinel Solutions. What are they?" "Private military contractors, former special operations guys who went mercenary. They do corporate espionage, witness intimidation, occasionally wet work when the price is right." Wet work. Assassinations made to look like accidents or natural causes. Heart attacks, car crashes, suicides. They're very good at it. Isaiah's hand tightened on the phone. "Can you prove they killed my father?" "Not without an exhumation and reinvestigation. Even then, if they use certain methods, there'd be no trace. But the timeline is damning. Your father becomes a problem. 2 weeks later, Caldwell pays Sentinel $2 million. 3 days after that, your father dies. Sentinel's final report lists the contract as successfully completed." "Where's Sentinel now?" "Defunct. Shut down in 2015 after a scandal in Iraq. But the operators? Most of them still work private contracts. I'm tracking 3 who were active in Memphis during that period." Isaiah looked at the basement full of evidence. At Dorothy Hayes watching him with concern and fear. At the documents proving his father hadn't died from bad luck or genetics. His father had been murdered. Murdered for trying to protect his community. murdered by the same family whose son had slapped his widow this morning.
Andre, Isaiah said quietly, I need you to dig deeper. I need everything on those 3 operators. Current locations, current contracts, everything.
Brother, what are you thinking? I'm thinking Victor Caldwell made a mistake 16 years ago.
What mistake?
He killed my father, but he let me live. Silence on the line. Then Andre's voice very carefully. Isaiah, listen to me. Whatever you're planning, I'm not planning anything illegal. I'm planning to do what my father tried to do. Build a case. Expose them. But this time, they won't be able to make the evidence disappear. And they won't be able to make me disappear. How can you be sure? Because I'm not a pastor with a folder of documents. I'm a SEAL with 16 years of experience hunting people who think they're untouchable. And I've got something my father didn't have. What's that? Nothing left to lose. Isaiah ended the call, turned to Dorothy.
How fast can you get me copies of everything?
Give me 30 minutes. Make it 20. We need to move fast. Once the Caldwells realize I'm digging, they'll try to bury this deeper. Dorothy hurried to the copy machine. Isaiah went back to the documents, photographing faster now. Every foreclosure, every shell company, every displaced family, every suspicious death or disappearance in the Caldwells' wake. There were more than he'd expected. A business owner who'd refused to sell.
Car accident. Brake failure.
A journalist who'd written an exposé on gentrification. Suicide, allegedly. A city inspector who'd been asking too many questions about Caldwell projects. Mugging gone wrong. Patterns. Always patterns. Never quite enough evidence to prosecute. Always plausible deniability. But the pattern was clear to anyone willing to see it. The Caldwells didn't just destroy businesses. They destroyed people. And they've been doing it for 40 years. His phone buzzed again.
Unknown number, he answered.
Washington. Silence. Then a voice. Smooth. Educated. Cold. Captain Washington, this is Victor Caldwell. I believe we need to discuss your mother's unfortunate accident this morning. Isaiah's jaw tightened. It wasn't an accident. Everything's an accident when the right lawyers get involved. I'm prepared to offer compensation. $50,000. More than generous for a minor altercation. My mother's dignity isn't for sale. A pause. Everything's for sale, Captain. Everything. The question is whether you're smart enough to take the deal before this situation becomes complicated. Complicated how? You're a military man. You understand chain of command, proper channels, respecting authority. I respect that. But you're also new to civilian life. You don't understand how things work in the real world. In the real world, people who make problems for my family tend to face consequences they didn't anticipate. Isaiah smiled. Dorothy, watching him, took an instinctive step back at the expression on his face. Mr. Caldwell, I spent 16 years in special operations. I've faced consequences you couldn't imagine in your worst nightmares. And I've delivered consequences to people far more dangerous than you. Victor's voice dropped 10 degrees. Is that a threat? It's a fact. See, you've spent 40 years operating in a world where money solves everything,
where lawyers and politicians and private contractors make your problems disappear.
You've gotten very comfortable with being untouchable. I am untouchable. So were the men I hunted in Fallujah and Ramadi and Kandahar. They thought their networks protected them, their money, their power. They were wrong. They're all dead now. Silence. Long enough that Isaiah thought Victor might have hung up. Then, "You're making a mistake, Captain." "No, Mr. Caldwell. You made the mistake this morning when your son put his hands on my mother. Everything that happens from here is consequence. I have resources you can't imagine. I'm sure you do. But here's what you don't have. You don't have the discipline to wage a long campaign. You don't have the patience to wait months or years for the right opportunity. And you don't have the experience of hunting men who are actually dangerous. And you do? 16 years of it. I know how to find vulnerabilities. I know how to apply pressure without leaving fingerprints. I know how to dismantle an organization from the inside out, so slowly that you don't even realize you're collapsing until you're already on the ground. Another pause. When Victor spoke again, his voice had an edge of uncertainty. What do you want? I want my mother to receive a public apology from your son. In person. At the diner. In front of the same witnesses who saw him strike her. That's not going to happen. Then we proceed to phase 2. Which is? You'll find out. Oh, and Mr. Caldwell, I know about Sentinel Solutions. I know about the contract 2 weeks before my father died. I know about the successfully completed final report. The silence this time was absolute. I have no idea what you're talking about, Victor said finally, but his voice had changed. Tighter. Worried. Of course you don't. But I'm going to prove it anyway. And when I do, your family's 40-year reign ends. Not just the business, not just the reputation, everything. You, your son, every politician you've bought, every official you've compromised, all of it exposed. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your secure email in about 5 minutes. I'm sending you a preview, just a taste of what I've compiled in the last 4 hours. Then imagine what I'll have in 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months. Because I'm not going anywhere, Mr. Caldwell. I'm home now, and I've got nothing but time. Isaiah ended the call. Dorothy stared at him. Did you just declare war? Yes. Isaiah's phone was already moving, sending Victor Caldwell a compressed file with 50 pages of evidence. Just enough to show he wasn't bluffing. Not enough to reveal his full hand. They'll come after you. I'm counting on it. The moment they make a move against me, they prove everything I'm saying is true. And I've got enough people watching to make sure nothing happens accidentally. His phone rang again. Andre. I heard that whole conversation, Andre said. You left your line open. I know. You just backed a billionaire into a corner and threatened to expose him for murder. I know that too. You're either the bravest man I know or the craziest. Can't it be both? Andre laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've got your back, brother, but this is going to get ugly fast. Victor Caldwell didn't build an empire by backing down when challenged. Good, neither did I. What's your next move? Isaiah looked at the stacks of documents, the evidence of 40 years of systematic destruction. I'm going to do what my father tried to do, but I'm going to do it the way I was trained. Overwhelming force, multiple angles of attack, and no mercy. You need anything from me? Keep digging on those Sentinel operators. If any of them are still in contact with the Caldwells, I want to know. And start reaching out to the families that were displaced. I want first-hand testimonies, names, dates, details, everything we need to build a RICO case. RICO? You're going federal? I've got a contact at the FBI, Agent Keisha Brooks. Worked with her on a human trafficking case 3 years ago. She's been trying to build a corruption case in Memphis, but couldn't get enough evidence. I'm about to hand her everything she needs. Beautiful. What else? I need you to make sure someone's watching my mother. Discreetly. Just until this plays out. If the Caldwells go after her to get to me. Already done. I've got 2 guys from our old unit in Memphis as of an hour ago. They're ghosts. She won't even know they're there.
Isaiah felt some of the tension ease from his shoulders. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just promise me you'll be smart about this. These people have killed before. They'll do it again if they think they can get away with it. They won't get away with it. Not this time. Isaiah ended the call and turned to Dorothy, who'd finished copying the documents. 2 boxes full of evidence, organized by year and category. This is everything? He asked. Everything I have access to. But Isaiah, there's more. Property records at the courthouse. Financial filings with the state. If you want the complete picture, I'll get it, but this is a good start. He picked up one of the boxes. Miss Hayes, I need you to do something for me. What? Make another copy of all this. Hide it somewhere safe. Not your home, not the library. Somewhere no one would think to look. Because if something happens to me, don't talk like that. I'm being realistic. If something happens to me, I need this evidence to survive. Can you do that? Dorothy looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. My sister has a farm in Arkansas. She's got an old fallout shelter from the Cold War. No one knows it exists except family. Perfect. Get these copies there today. I will. She hesitated. Isaiah, your father would be proud of you. What you're doing, standing up for what's right, even when it's dangerous. He taught me how. Him and my mama both. Isaiah carried the boxes to his truck, loaded them in the back, covered them with a tarp, climbed in the cab and sat for a moment, hands on the wheel. His phone showed 43 missed calls, 27 voicemails, 86 text messages. Word was spreading fast. Friends from church, neighbors, people who'd seen what happened at the diner and wanted to know if Lorraine was okay. One text stood out, from Sheriff Dale Bradley. Need to talk. Come by the station. Unofficial. Isaiah started the truck and drove to the Shelby County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Bradley was waiting outside, leaning against his cruiser, hat in his hand. He looked like a man who'd aged 10 years in 6 hours. Isaiah. Sheriff, we need to talk about what happened this morning. My mama get her incident report filed? Bradley looked uncomfortable. That's the thing. She doesn't want to press charges. Did she say that? Or did someone convince her to say that? Isaiah, because I'm guessing about an hour after I left the diner, someone from the Caldwell legal team showed up with a very generous offer and some very subtle threats about what happens if she doesn't take it. Bradley said nothing, which was confirmation enough. How much did they offer? $50,000, plus a confidentiality agreement. Isaiah laughed, cold and bitter. $50,000. That's what my mother's dignity is worth. Same amount Victor offered me on the phone. He called you? About 20 minutes ago. Tried to buy me off, too. Didn't work. Bradley put his hat back on. Isaiah, I'm going to be straight with you. The Caldwells have more lawyers than I have deputies. They've got 3 city council members on speed dial. The mayor owes Victor for his campaign funding. If this goes to court, your mother will be dragged through hell, and at the end of it, Marcus will probably walk with a fine and community service. I know. Then why are you pushing this? Because it's not about Marcus anymore, Sheriff. It's about 40 years of the Caldwells doing whatever they want to whoever they want, without consequence. It's about my father dying under suspicious circumstances that were never investigated. It's about families losing everything they had because one family decided they wanted it more. Bradley was quiet for a long moment. Your father. You think? I know, and I'm going to prove it. Isaiah, be careful. If you're right, if they were willing to kill Thomas, they'll be willing to kill you. They can try, but I'm not my father, Sheriff. He was a good man, trying to work within a system that was rigged against him. I'm a SEAL who spent 16 years learning how to break systems that were designed to be unbreakable. That sounds like you're planning something illegal. Isaiah met his eyes. Everything I'm planning is completely legal. I'm gathering evidence, filing complaints with the appropriate agencies, working with federal investigators to build a case, all by the book.
And if they come after you outside the book?
Isaiah smiled. Then I defend myself, also by the book. Self-defense is still legal in Tennessee, isn't it, Sheriff? Bradley studied him. I knew your father. Good man. Best man I ever knew. And I'm telling you the same thing I told him. The Caldwells play dirty. They don't fight fair. And they've got resources you can't match. My father didn't have 16 years of special operations training. He didn't have a team of former SEALs backing him up. And he didn't have the one advantage I have. What's that? Nothing left to lose. My father had you, had the community, had his reputation to protect. Me? I've spent 16 years in war zones. My marriage didn't survive the deployments. I don't have kids, don't own property. My whole life fits in a duffel bag. The only thing I care about in this world is my mother. And they already hurt her. So what exactly do they have to threaten me with? Bradley had no answer to that. If you hear anything, Isaiah said, anything about threats or moves against my mother, you'll let me know? I will, but Isaiah, officially, I can't help you with this. Understood. Unofficially? Bradley's expression hardened. I've been sheriff for 23 years. I've watched the Caldwells destroy good people that whole time. Never had enough to move against them. If you can build a case that actually sticks, if you can finally hold them accountable for everything they've done, he extended his hand, you'll have my full support. Unofficially. Isaiah shook his hand. That's all I need, Sheriff. He drove back to his mother's house, the small colonial where he'd grown up. White siding needed paint, blue shutters were fading. But the porch was swept clean, the garden tended, the same rocking chair his father used to sit in, still there, waiting. Lorraine was in the kitchen when he walked in. She'd changed out of her work clothes. The bruise on her face looked worse now, purple, spreading across her cheekbone. "Baby, I told you to let it go," she said. "I can't, Mama." "Why not? I accepted their offer. $50,000. That's more money than I've ever seen. I can fix the roof, pay off the car, put some away for emergencies." "They killed Daddy." Lorraine froze, potholder in her hand, halfway to the stove. "What?" Isaiah pulled out his laptop, showed her the evidence. The Sentinel Solutions contract, the timeline, the pattern of convenient deaths around Caldwell projects. She sank into a chair, hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Oh, God. Oh, my God. Thomas, I thought... The doctors said heart attack. They said it was natural. They said..." They lied, or they didn't know. But Mama, Daddy didn't die of a heart attack. He was murdered because he was getting too close to exposing what the Caldwells really are. How can you prove it? I'm working on it. But even if I can't prove Daddy specifically, I can prove enough other things to bring them down. Everything Daddy was trying to do. I'm going to finish it. Lorraine looked at her son, at the warrior who'd come home from 7 deployments harder and quieter, but still her baby. At the man who'd inherited his father's sense of justice and added 16 years of training in how to enforce it. "They'll kill you too," she whispered. "They'll try. But I'm not Daddy. I know how to fight back. And I've got backup he didn't have." "Isaiah..." "Mama, listen to me. I can't let this go. Not just for you. Not just for Daddy. For every family they've destroyed. Every person they've hurt. It has to stop. And I'm the only one who can stop it." She reached across the table, took his hands. "Your daddy used to say the same thing. Someone has to stand up. Might as well be me. And look what happened to him." "Exactly. Which is why I have to be smarter, faster, more prepared. I have to do what he tried to do, but better. and I have to do it before they can do to someone else what they did to him.
Promise me you'll be careful.
I promise.
Promise me you'll come home.
Every night, Mama. Every single night.
She held his hands tighter. Your daddy would be so proud of you, and so scared for you, just like I am right now.
Isaiah's phone buzzed. Text from Andre. Victor Caldwell just made 3 calls. One to his lawyer, one to his brother on the city council, and one to a number that traces back to Sentinel Solutions, or what's left of it. They're mobilizing. Another text, this one from an unknown number. Captain Washington, you have 24 hours to drop this.
After that, we can't guarantee your safety, or your mother's.
This is your only warning. Isaiah showed Lorraine the text. Her face went pale.
Isaiah, maybe we should...
No, he stood. This just proves I'm right. They're scared. And scared people make mistakes. He dialed Andre. They're threatening my mother. I saw. The protection team is already in place. 2 men on the house, 2 mobile. All armed. All experienced. Your mama's safer than the president right now.
And me? You're a SEAL, brother. You can take care of yourself.
But watch your back. These Sentinel guys, if they're coming, they're professionals. They won't hit you head on. I know. They'll wait for an opening. Try to make it look accidental. So don't give them an opening. Copy that. Isaiah ended the call and looked at his mother. Pack a bag. You're going to stay with Aunt Michelle in Little Rock for a few days.
I'm not leaving my home.
Mama.
No, this is my house. Thomas's house. Your house. I'm not running. If they want to come for me, let them come. I survived 62 years in this world, including 3 years without your daddy. I can survive the Caldwells. Isaiah wanted to argue, but saw the steel in her eyes. The same steel she'd shown every time he deployed. The same steel that got her through his father's death. The same steel that made her go to work this morning, despite knowing Marcus Caldwell might be there.
Okay, he said.
But there are going to be people watching the house. You won't see them, but they're there. If anything feels wrong, you call me immediately.
I will.
And Mama, don't answer the door for anyone you don't know. Don't accept packages. Don't,
baby, I know. I watch the news. I know how these things work. Isaiah kissed her forehead.
I love you, Mama.
I love you too, baby. Now go do what you need to do. But come home safe. He walked out to his truck. The sun was setting over Memphis, painting the sky orange and purple. Somewhere in this city, Victor Caldwell was making plans. Marcus was hiding. Sentinel Solutions operators were receiving their contracts, and Isaiah Washington was about to show them all what happens when you threaten a Navy SEAL's family. His phone rang. Number he didn't recognize, but area code was local. Washington. Captain Washington, my name is Special Agent Keisha Brooks, FBI.
I believe we worked together on a human trafficking case in 2021.
Isaiah straightened. Agent Brooks, I remember. Is this about the Caldwells? In part. Can we meet somewhere private? When? How about now? I'm parked 3 blocks from your mother's house. Black Suburban. Isaiah looked down the street, saw the Suburban. Give me 2 minutes. He walked to the vehicle. The back door opened. He climbed in. Agent Brooks was mid-40s. Black woman, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She extended her hand.
Thank you for meeting on short notice.
What's this about? Victor Caldwell made a call about an hour ago to a city council member named Robert Hayes. Hayes called the mayor. Mayor called my SAC. SAC called me. Apparently, you've made some very powerful people very nervous. Good, Brooks smiled. That's what I said. Captain Washington, I've been investigating the Caldwells for 2 years. Corruption, racketeering,
money laundering, but I could never get enough evidence. Witnesses disappear. Records vanish. Every time I get close, something happens and the case falls apart. What changed? You. In 6 hours, you've compiled more usable evidence than I gathered in 24 months. And you've rattled them enough that they're making mistakes. Calling people they shouldn't call. Threatening people they shouldn't threaten. Making their panic visible. Isaiah pulled out his laptop. I've got more. A lot more. And I'm just getting started. He showed her the Sentinel Solutions contract, the pattern of suspicious deaths, the foreclosure records, the shell companies, everything he and Dorothy had compiled. Brooks's eyes went wide. My God, where did you get all this? Public records, news archives, some help from friends with security clearances. This is enough for a RICO case, maybe multiple RICO cases. That's what I thought. Captain Washington, I'm going to be straight with you. If you hand this over to me, you need to understand what happens next. This becomes an official investigation. You become a witness. And witnesses in cases against billionaires tend to have accidents. They're already threatening accidents. I know, which is why I'm prepared to offer you protective custody. I don't need it. You might not, but your mother does. And before you say she won't accept it, let me point out that protective custody doesn't have to mean hiding. It can mean having federal agents as insurance. Visible insurance. The kind that makes people think twice before trying something stupid. Isaiah considered. What's the timeline? I take this to my SAC tomorrow morning. We open an official investigation. Grand jury within a week. Indictments within a month if everything breaks right. And in the meantime? In the meantime, the Caldwells do what cornered billionaires always do. They throw money at lawyers, threaten everyone involved, and try to make the problem disappear before it destroys them. Can they? Brooks met his eyes. Not if you and I work together. Not if we move fast enough and hit hard enough that they can't recover. But Captain Washington, you need to understand something. This isn't going to be like your military operations. Clean, surgical. This is going to be messy, public, drawn out. And at the end of it, even if we win, even if we put Victor and Marcus in prison for the rest of their lives, there will be collateral damage. People you care about will get hurt. Your mother's name will be in the papers. Your father's death will be investigated, exhumed, possibly. Every detail of your life will be examined. Are you prepared for that? Isaiah thought about his mother's face this morning, about his father's grave, about 40 years of families destroyed and communities displaced and power wielded without conscience. Agent Brooks, I've spent 16 years prepared for worse. Let's bring them down. She smiled. Then we have a deal. I'll start the paperwork tonight. But Captain Washington, one more thing. What? Stay alive. Because if something happens to you before this goes to trial, half my case disappears with you. I'll do my best. See that you do. And Captain, for what it's worth, your mother raised a good man. Your father would be proud. Isaiah climbed out of the Suburban, walked back to his truck, got in, sat there for a moment in the growing darkness. 24 hours ago, he'd been a retired SEAL, trying to figure out what came next, trying to build a normal life, trying to be someone other than the warrior he'd been for 16 years. Now he was at war again. Different enemy, different battlefield, different rules, but still war. And Isaiah Washington had never lost a war. He started his truck and drove into the Memphis night, ready for whatever came next. Because somewhere in this city, the Caldwells were making their plans, and Isaiah was making his. And only one side was going to walk away from this.
Isaiah drove through Memphis as dawn broke over the Mississippi. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. News traveled fast in the city this size.
By now, half of South Memphis knew what happened at Sweet Home Diner. The other half would know by lunch. He pulled into the Shelby County Courthouse parking lot at 6:45. The building wouldn't open for another hour, but Isaiah had learned patience in places where impatience got you killed. He could wait. His phone rang. Andre. "You see the news?" Isaiah hadn't. He pulled up his browser. The headline made his jaw tighten. Local veteran harasses prominent family over minor dispute. The article was already live on 3 Memphis news sites, all owned by subsidiaries of Caldwell Media Holdings. "They work fast," Isaiah said. "Brother, this is just the opening move. By noon, you'll be the unstable seal with anger issues. By tonight, they'll have doctors talking about PTSD and violent tendencies. By tomorrow, nobody will remember your mama got hit. They'll only remember you threatened a respected businessman." "Let them talk. Isaiah, listen to me. I've been digging all night. Victor Caldwell has 6 different crisis management firms on retainer. He's used this playbook before. Discredit the victim, flip the narrative, make the accuser defend themselves instead of pressing the attack." Isaiah watched the sunrise paint the courthouse steps orange. "What else did you find?" "The 3 Sentinel operators from 2013? 2 are dead. Car accident in 2016. Murder-suicide in 2018. Both ruled unrelated to their contract work." "And the 3rd? Jakob Voss, Danish national, former military intelligence, currently running a private security consultancy out of Atlanta. And Isaiah, he flew into Memphis last night. Landed at 9:40 p.m., 2 hours after Victor's phone call to you." Isaiah's hand tightened on the steering wheel. "Where is he now?" "Peabody Hotel, presidential suite. Checked in alone, but my contact at the airport saw him meet with 2 other men. Professional types, military bearing. They split up after baggage claim. They're already here. 3 of them minimum, probably more. And brother, Voss isn't like the thugs Marcus surrounds himself with. This guy has 17 confirmed kills across 4 continents. He's the real deal." "So am I." Andre was quiet for a moment. "I know. That's what scares me. Because if you and Voss go head-to-head, people die. And I'd rather it not be you." "Send me everything you have on him. Patterns, preferences, known associates. I need to know how he thinks. Already in your encrypted folder. But Isaiah, promise me something." "What?" "Don't go looking for him. Let him make the first move. He's being paid to solve a problem, not start a war. If you stay defensive, stay smart. He's got no clean angle." "And if he creates one anyway?" "Then you do what SEALs do, but not before. Agreed?" Isaiah watched a custodian unlock the courthouse doors. "Agreed." He ended the call and climbed out of his truck. The custodian, an older black man with gray hair and kind eyes, looked up as Isaiah approached. "We don't open till 8, son." Isaiah pulled out his military ID. "Captain Isaiah Washington, U.S. Navy retired. I'm here to file a public records request. Thought I'd get in line early." The custodian studied the ID, then Isaiah's face. Recognition flickered in his eyes. "You're Lorraine's boy. Heard about what happened at the diner." "Word travels. Always does, especially when it involves the Caldwells." He glanced around the empty plaza, then lowered his voice. "Your mama's good people. What that boy did to her, that ain't right." "No, sir, it's not." "You planning to do something about it?" "I'm planning to file some paperwork." The custodian smiled slightly. "Paperwork can be powerful in the right hands. Come on in. I'll get you started early. Least I can do." Isaiah followed him inside. The courthouse smelled like floor polish and old documents. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. Name's Robert, by the way. Robert Hayes. Dorothy's my sister. Isaiah stopped walking. The librarian? The very same. She called me last night. Told me about the documents you found. About what you're trying to do. Robert unlocked a door marked Records Department. Said you might be coming by this morning. Said I should help however I can.
Why would you do that?
Robert's expression hardened. Because the Caldwells foreclosed on my daddy's farm in 1986. He'd worked that land for 43 years. Vernon Caldwell bought it for $18,000. Sold it 6 months later for $250,000. My daddy never recovered. Died 3 years later. Broken. So yeah, Captain Washington, I'll help. Whatever you need. Isaiah felt something shift in his chest. He'd spent 16 years operating alone or with a small team in hostile territory. Now he was finding allies in his own hometown. People who'd been waiting for someone to finally stand up to the Caldwells. I need property records, Isaiah said. Every transaction involving Caldwell properties or their subsidiaries from 1980 to present. Foreclosures, purchases, sales, zoning changes, everything. Robert sat down at a computer terminal. That's going to be thousands of documents. I know. Take weeks to compile manually. I've got time. Robert's fingers moved across the keyboard. Or I could give you digital access to the entire database. Technically against protocol. But technically, I'm the one who sets the protocol in this department. He pulled out a blank access card, swiped it through a reader, typed a series of commands, handed the card to Isaiah. This gives you administrative access. You can search, sort, download, whatever you need. Just don't tell anyone where you got it. Isaiah took the card. Mr. Hayes, I don't know what to... Don't thank me. Just finish what your father started. That's thanks enough. Isaiah spent the next 3 hours in the records room, downloading files. Every property transaction, every zoning change, every building permit, every code violation issued or mysteriously rescinded. The pattern was even clearer in the official documents than it had been in Dorothy's newspaper archives. The Caldwells had weaponized bureaucracy. They'd turned city regulations into instruments of displacement, using the law itself to destroy the people it was supposed to protect. His phone buzzed at 9:30. Text from Agent Brooks. Grand jury convened. Presenting evidence this afternoon. Need you at FBI field office at 1 p.m. Don't be late. Another text, this one from an unknown number. Captain Washington, we should talk, face to face. Peabody Hotel lobby, noon. Come alone. I promise civilized conversation. J.V. Jacob Voss. Inviting Isaiah into a public meeting. Bold, arrogant, or tactically sound, depending on perspective. Isaiah stared at the message. Every instinct said decline. This was exactly the kind of opening Andre warned him not to create. But every instinct also said that Jacob Voss didn't issue invitations without purpose. If he wanted to talk, there was intelligence to be gained. He texted back, I'll be there. At 11:45, Isaiah walked into the Peabody Hotel. The lobby was elegant, old Memphis money on full display. Tourists watched the famous ducks swim in the marble fountain. A piano player performed ragtime in the corner. Normal life, completely disconnected from the war Isaiah was waging 3 blocks away. Jakob Voss sat in a leather chair near the fountain, reading the Financial Times. He was exactly what the dossier promised. Mid-50s, silver hair, tailored suit, European sophistication masking professional violence. He looked up as Isaiah approached and smiled. Captain Washington, punctual. I appreciate that in a professional. His English was perfect, accent barely detectable. Please, sit. Isaiah sat across from him, maintaining distance, hands visible, weight balanced. Ready. Relax, Captain. I'm not here to threaten you. Quite the opposite. Then why are you here? Voss folded his newspaper. I'm here because Victor Caldwell paid me a great deal of money to make you stop. And after reviewing your file, I've concluded that's not possible. Isaiah said nothing. You're wondering if this is a bluff, Voss continued. Some elaborate psychological operation. It's not. I'm being quite sincere. In my line of work, I've learned to assess targets with precision. Some can be bought. Some can be scared. Some can be eliminated. You fall into none of those categories. And yet you took Caldwell's money. I took his retainer, which obligates me to attempt a resolution. Consider this my attempt. Voss leaned forward slightly. Captain, I know what you're building. The FBI case, the media strategy, the community organizing. It's impressive work. If successful, the Caldwell empire collapses. Victor goes to prison. Marcus follows. 40 years of corruption exposed. That's the plan. Then let me help you. Isaiah's expression didn't change, but internally, every alarm triggered. Why would you do that? Because I'm a businessman, Captain, not a zealot. Victor Caldwell hired me to protect his interests. But I've since learned that his interests include covering up multiple murders, including your father's. I don't work for murderers. I have professional standards. You're an assassin. I'm a problem solver who occasionally employs terminal solutions, but only against people who've earned it through their own actions. Civilians, family members, men trying to protect their communities? Not my targets. Never have been. Voss pulled an envelope from his jacket, set it on the table between them. That contains copies of every communication between Victor Caldwell and Sentinel Solutions from 2010 to 2015, including the contract for your father's elimination, signed authorizations, payment records, post-action report, everything you need to prove murder. Isaiah stared at the envelope. Why? Because Victor Caldwell thinks money makes him untouchable. He thinks hiring men like me makes him powerful. He's wrong on both counts. Power without accountability is just tyranny. And I don't enable tyrants. You worked for Sentinel? I consulted for Sentinel on 3 contracts, none in the United States. When I learned about the Thomas Washington job, I severed all ties, but I kept copies of their files. Insurance, originally. Now, justice. Isaiah reached for the envelope, stopped. What do you want in return? Nothing, though I would appreciate you not mentioning my name in your eventual testimony. I have other clients who prefer discretion. And if I do mention you? Voss smiled. Then we'll have a different conversation. But I don't think you will. We're both professionals, Captain. We understand operational security. Isaiah took the envelope, opened it. The first document was a contract dated April 2013. Subject: Thomas Washington. Objective: termination via cardiac event simulation. Fee: $2 million. Signature: Victor Caldwell. The second document was a medical examiner's preliminary report, before the official one. This version listed 3 suspicious markers consistent with induced heart attack. Someone had handwritten in the margin, "Revise per VC request." The third document was a bank transfer, $2 million from Caldwell Holdings LLC to Sentinel Solutions, routed through 4 shell companies and 2 offshore accounts. Isaiah's hands didn't shake, but his jaw clenched so tight his teeth hurt. That's admissible? He asked. Depends on how it's introduced. If it mysteriously appears in the FBI's evidence locker with no clear chain of custody, it might be challenged. But if a confidential informant with direct knowledge provides it during grand jury testimony, properly authenticated and corroborated by other evidence you've already gathered, yes, it's admissible. You'd testify? I provide a sealed deposition through proper channels. My face never appears in court. My name stays redacted in public filings. But the evidence stands. Isaiah studied Voss's face, looking for deception, manipulation, the angle he was missing. Found nothing but professional courtesy. Why now? Why not 3 years ago? 5 years ago? You've had these documents the whole time. Voss leaned back. Because 3 years ago, there was no Captain Isaiah Washington building a case. No FBI investigation. No community support. No possibility of success. These documents alone wouldn't have been enough. But combined with everything you've compiled, they're the final piece. The smoking gun that turns a compelling case into an airtight one. You've been waiting for someone like me. I've been waiting for someone who could actually win. Victor Caldwell has destroyed too many good people. Your father wasn't the first, wouldn't have been the last. But you, Captain, you're the reckoning he's earned. Voss stood, extended his hand. Isaiah stood as well, but didn't shake. If this is a setup, then you'll hunt me down and kill me, I know. That's why it's not a setup. Voss smiled. Good luck, Captain Washington. Memphis deserves better than the Caldwells. Your mother deserves justice, and your father deserves to have his name cleared. He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of tourists and businessmen like he'd never been there at all. Isaiah stood in the Peabody lobby, envelope in hand, mind racing. This changed everything. With Voss's evidence, the case went from strong to unbeatable. Victor Caldwell had just been condemned by his own hired gun. Unless it was a trap. Unless the documents were forgeries designed to discredit Isaiah when they were exposed. Unless Voss was playing a deeper game than Isaiah could see. He pulled out his phone, called Andre. I just met with Jakob Voss. Silence. Then, please tell me you're joking. He gave me documents, says they prove Victor ordered my father's murder. And you believe him? I don't know. That's why I'm calling you. I need these authenticated, fast, before I hand them to the FBI. Send me images. I'll run them through every verification protocol we have. If they're fake, I'll know within an hour. Isaiah photographed each document, sent them encrypted. Andre, if these are real, if they're real, you just got handed a winning lottery ticket. If they're fake, you're about to commit career suicide by presenting forged evidence to a federal grand jury. So yeah, brother, let's make sure they're real. Isaiah checked his watch. 12:20. FBI meeting at 1. Barely enough time. He drove to the field office, arrived at 12:55. Agent Brooks met him in the lobby. You look stressed, she said. Interesting morning. Want to talk about it before we go upstairs? Isaiah handed her the envelope. Jakob Voss gave me this. Says it proves Victor Caldwell ordered my father's murder. Brooks's eyes widened. Voss? The Sentinel contractor? He wants immunity in exchange for testimony. And you trust him? I'm having the documents verified right now. If they're authentic, do you want them for the grand jury? Brooks opened the envelope, read the first page. Her expression shifted from skeptical to shocked to coldly furious. If these are real, she said quietly, Victor Caldwell doesn't just go to prison. He goes to death row. This is conspiracy to commit murder, first degree, no statute of limitations. That's what I thought. And Voss is willing to testify? Through sealed deposition, name redacted. Brooks pulled out her phone. I'm calling my SAC. We need to move fast. If Voss provided this to you, he might provide it to others.
We need him locked down before he changes his mind or disappears." She made the call, spoke in rapid, clipped sentences, hung up. "SAC wants to meet with you now. Grand jury presentation is delayed until we verify these documents. If they check out, we move immediately. Arrest warrants, asset freezes, the whole package." Isaiah's phone buzzed. Text from Andre. "Documents are authentic. Signatures verified against known samples. Bank records match federal databases. Medical examiner's prelim is genuine. I found the ME. He confirmed it existed before being told to revise. Brother, this is real. Victor Caldwell killed your father." Isaiah showed Brooks the text. She read it, looked up at him. "Captain Washington, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "Go ahead."
Are you going to be able to handle this professionally? Because in about 2 hours, we're going to arrest the man who murdered your father. And I need to know you're not going to do something that compromises the case." Isaiah thought about his father, about coming home 3 weeks too late for the funeral, about his mother's tears, about 16 years of believing it was just bad luck, bad genetics, bad timing, about learning it was murder. "Agent Brooks, I spent 16 years conducting operations in hostile territory. I've killed men who deserved it and lost brothers who didn't. I've operated under rules of engagement that made no sense and followed orders I disagreed with. But I did it all professionally because that's what warriors do. We control ourselves, even when everything inside wants to explode." He met her eyes. "Victor Caldwell is going to prison. He's going to die there. And I'm going to watch it happen through the legal system because that's the right way, not because it's satisfying, not because it's easy, but because it's right. That's what my father would want. That's what my mother needs. And that's what I'm going to deliver." Brooks studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, let's go put a murderer away." They rode the elevator to the 7th floor. The FBI field office was efficient chaos. Agents moving between desks, phones ringing, computers humming. Brooks led Isaiah to a conference room where 3 other people waited. Special Agent in Charge, Marcus Thompson, 50-something, black man with gray temples and the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Martinez, late 30s, Latina woman with sharp eyes and a sharper suit. And a stenographer, already set up to record. "Captain Washington," Thompson said. "Thank you for coming. We don't have much time, so let's be direct. Agent Brooks tells me you have evidence that Victor Caldwell ordered your father's murder." Isaiah laid out the documents, explained the meeting with Voss, presented Andre's authentication. Thompson read everything twice, passed it to Martinez. She read it once, expression unchanging. "This is a death penalty case," she said finally. "Conspiracy to commit murder of a civilian on U.S. soil. If we can prove Victor Caldwell signed this contract knowing its purpose was assassination, he faces capital charges." "Can you prove it?" Isaiah asked. "With these documents? With Voss's testimony? With the pattern of behavior you've documented showing motive and opportunity? Yes, I can prove it." Thompson leaned forward. "Captain Washington, I need to explain what happens next. The moment we move on Victor Caldwell, everything changes. His lawyers will attack from every angle. They'll claim the documents are forged. They'll attack Voss's credibility. They'll attack yours, your military service, your mental health, your relationship with your mother. Everything becomes ammunition. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen strong cases fall apart when the defendant has enough money to wage total war. And Victor Caldwell has that money. He also has 40 years of evidence against him, which we'll use. But I want you prepared for how ugly this gets. Are you prepared?" Isaiah thought about his mother's face this morning, About Dorothy's brother dying of a heart attack at 56. About Robert Hayes's father losing his farm. About every family the Caldwells had destroyed over 4 decades. I'm prepared. Martinez pulled out a legal pad. Then let's prep your testimony. Grand jury convenes in 90 minutes. You're our first witness. For the next hour, Isaiah answered questions. Yes, he could verify the timeline. Yes, he could testify to his father's activism against the Caldwells. Yes, he could speak to the suspicious circumstances of the death. Yes, he understood perjury charges if he lied. At 2:40, they broke. Thompson pulled Isaiah aside. One more thing. We're executing arrest warrants today. Victor Caldwell at his home. Marcus at the estate where he's been hiding. We'll have SWAT on scene for safety. It's going to be a media spectacle. You need to be nowhere near it. I wasn't planning to attend. Good, because if you're there, his lawyers will claim intimidation, harassment, vigilante justice. Stay home. Stay quiet. Let us do our job. Isaiah nodded. Thompson's expression softened slightly. Your father was a good man. I didn't know him personally, but I've read the reports. He was trying to help his community. That's worth something. We're going to make sure his death means something too. At 3 p.m., Isaiah sat in the witness room outside the grand jury chamber. Through the door, he could hear muffled voices, questions, answers. The machinery of justice grinding slowly forward. His phone buzzed. Text from his mother. Baby, there's news trucks outside the house. What's happening? He called her. Mama, stay inside. Lock the doors. Don't talk to anyone. Isaiah, what did you do? I gave the FBI everything. They're moving against the Caldwells today. It's going to get loud. Silence on the line. Then, quietly, your father would be proud. I hope so. I know so. Now come home safe. I'll make dinner. You can tell me everything. Love you, Mama. Love you too, baby. The conference room door opened. A federal marshal gestured to Isaiah. They're ready for you, Captain Washington. Isaiah stood, walked into the grand jury room. 16 citizens sitting in chairs, watching him with curious, serious expressions. The prosecutor standing at a podium. Everything formal and official, and nothing like the gunfights and raids he'd spent 16 years conducting. But this was the battlefield now. Words instead of bullets, evidence instead of explosives. And Isaiah Washington had trained his whole life to win battles. Please state your name for the record, the prosecutor said. Captain Isaiah Washington, United States Navy, retired. Captain Washington, do you know a man named Thomas Washington? Yes, he was my father. And can you tell us what happened to Thomas Washington on the evening of June 3rd, 2013? Isaiah took a breath. He was murdered by Victor Caldwell, and I'm here to prove it. The grand jury deliberated for 47 minutes. At 4:30 p.m., they returned true bills on 14 counts. Conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, wire fraud, money laundering, obstruction of justice, witness tampering. The full weight of federal criminal law aimed at one family's 40-year reign. At 5 p.m., SWAT teams hit both Caldwell properties simultaneously. At 5:07, Victor Caldwell was arrested in his study, surrounded by lawyers who couldn't help him. At 5:09, Marcus Caldwell was arrested in his bedroom, crying. At 5:15, every news channel in Memphis led with the same story. Breaking: Memphis real estate mogul arrested on murder charges. At 5:30, Isaiah walked into his mother's house. She met him at the door, pulled him into her arms, held him tight. It's done, he said. It's finally done. No, baby, Lorraine said. pulling back to look at his face. It's just beginning. But we're ready. Together, we're ready. And somewhere in a federal detention center, Victor Caldwell sat in a cell for the first time in his life, finally understanding what it meant to be powerless. Isaiah woke at 4 a.m. to the sound of breaking glass. His body moved before his mind fully engaged, rolling off the couch where he'd been sleeping, hand reaching for the pistol he'd placed under the cushion. He was on his feet, weapon ready, scanning the darkness in 3 seconds flat. Another crash. Kitchen window. Footsteps on linoleum. "Mama, stay down," Isaiah called toward the stairs. "I'm already down, baby." Lorraine's voice came from the hallway. She'd grabbed his father's old baseball bat. 62 years old and ready to fight. Isaiah moved through the living room, staying low, using furniture for cover. The kitchen light was off, but streetlight filtered through the broken window, illuminating a figure climbing inside. Young. Male. White. Mid-20s. Dressed in black, holding a crowbar. Not a professional. Professionals didn't break windows. They picked locks, disabled alarms, moved like ghosts. This was amateur hour, which made it either random crime or a message. Isaiah knew which one. "Federal agent, freeze!" he lied. Not technically true anymore, but the effect was the same. The kid froze, crowbar halfway raised. "Drop the weapon! Hands on your head! Do it now!" The crowbar clattered to the floor. Hands went up. "On your knees! Lace your fingers behind your head!" The kid complied, shaking. Isaiah kept his pistol trained as he moved closer, kicked the crowbar away, checked for other weapons. Found a phone, wallet, and a folded piece of paper in the kid's pocket. He pulled out the paper, unfolded it one-handed while maintaining his aim. It was a typed note. "Scare the old woman, break things, make noise, leave this message, drop the case or next time it's worse. Payment, $5,000 cash on completion. Text proof to this number." Isaiah's jaw clenched. "Who hired you?" "I don't know, man. I swear. I got a text yesterday, anonymous. Said there'd be $5,000 if I did this. I'm broke. I needed the money. I didn't think—" "You didn't think breaking into an elderly woman's home might be a felony?" "Please, I'm sorry. I'll leave. I won't come back. Just don't shoot me." Isaiah heard sirens in the distance. Someone had called 911. Good. Let the police handle this idiot. He lowered his weapon slightly, but kept it ready. Who sent the text? "I don't know. Blocked number. But they knew my name, knew I needed money." It was weird, but I thought, you thought $5,000 was worth terrorizing a 62-year-old woman? The kid started crying. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean—" Red and blue lights flooded the kitchen. Car doors slammed. Voices shouted commands. "Memphis PD, drop your weapon!" Isaiah carefully set his pistol on the counter, raised his hands. "Isaiah Washington, homeowner. Intruder is secured and unarmed." 3 officers entered, weapons drawn. Isaiah recognized one of them, Officer James Mitchell. They'd gone to high school together. "Isaiah, what the hell?" "Kid broke in. Was paid to scare my mother. I've got the instructions in my pocket. Can I reach for them slowly?" "Yeah, go ahead." Isaiah retrieved the paper, handed it over. Mitchell read it, expression darkening. "This is witness intimidation. Federal case, right? The Caldwell arrest?" "Has to be." Mitchell's partner was already cuffing the kid, reading him his rights. "We'll take him in. You'll need to come down for a statement." "I know the drill." Mitchell lowered his voice. "Isaiah, this is just the start. Word on the street is the Caldwells are putting out money for anything that makes you look bad. False accusations, harassment claims, anything to muddy the waters before trial." "Let them try." "I'm serious. These people have resources.
They're going to come at you from every direction. I'll be ready. The police took the kid away.
Isaiah and Lorraine spent the next hour giving statements, calling a 24-hour glass repair service, cleaning up the mess. By 6 a.m., the window was temporarily boarded, the kitchen swept, and Isaiah was pouring coffee with hands that didn't shake but wanted to. "You should go stay with Aunt Michelle," he said to his mother. "We already had this conversation. Mama, they just sent someone to our house. They sent an idiot with a crowbar. If they'd sent someone dangerous, you'd have handled it. I trust you, baby. I'm not leaving." Isaiah's phone rang. Agent Brooks. "I heard about the break-in. You okay?" "We're fine. Kid wasn't a professional." "No, but he's a message. Victor Caldwell made bail 3 hours ago." Isaiah's hand tightened on his phone. "I thought the judge denied bail." "The first judge did. His lawyers forum shopped until they found Judge Patricia Hendricks, who has received over $200,000 in campaign contributions from Caldwell-affiliated PACs over the past 6 years. She set bail at $10 million. Victor posted it at 4 a.m. He's out? He's out. Ankle monitor, travel restrictions, surrender of passport. But yes, he's at his estate right now, probably planning his next move. And Marcus? Still in custody. His bail hearing is this afternoon. Different judge, so we'll see." Isaiah closed his eyes. "They're going to escalate." "Undoubtedly, which is why I'm calling. The SAC wants to offer you protective custody, full package, safe house, armed guards, the works." "I already said no." "That was before they broke into your house, Isaiah. Before Victor made bail. The threat level just went from theoretical to active." "The answer's still no. I go into hiding. I look scared. I look scared, the community loses confidence. They lose confidence. Witnesses start backing out. I stay visible. I stay strong. Everyone else stays strong too." Brooks sighed. "You're making my job harder. I'm making Victor's job harder. That's what matters." "Fine, but I'm assigning a protection detail. 2 agents, rotating shifts. They'll be discreet, but they'll be there. And before you argue, this isn't optional. The U.S. attorney won't risk losing her star witness because he's too stubborn to accept help." Isaiah wanted to refuse, wanted to say he could handle himself. But he thought about his mother sleeping upstairs, about Dorothy Hayes and Robert Hayes, and all the other people who'd stuck their necks out to help him. "Okay, but they stay outside. I don't want my mother feeling like she's under siege in her own home." "Deal. They'll be there within the hour." Isaiah ended the call, looked at Lorraine, who'd been listening. "Federal protection," she said. "Never thought I'd see the day. Never thought I'd need it, but here we are. Your father used to say, the fight chooses you. You don't choose the fight." Daddy was right about a lot of things. Lorraine reached across the table, took his hand. "Baby, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Always." "Do you think they killed him? Really, truly? Or do you just want them to have killed him because it's easier than accepting it was just his heart giving out?" Isaiah looked at his mother, at the woman who'd loved Thomas Washington for 33 years, who'd mourned him for 3, who'd had to make peace with losing him young. "Mama, I've seen the documents, the contract, the payments, the medical examiner's original report. They killed him. It wasn't his heart. It was murder made to look like natural causes." Tears filled Lorraine's eyes. "Part of me hoped I was wrong, hoped you were wrong, because if it was murder, that means I've been living 3 blocks from his killer this whole time. That means I've been polite to those people at church fundraisers and community events. That means I smiled at the man who took my husband. You didn't know. I should have known.
I should have pushed harder for an autopsy. Should have questioned the timing. Should have... Mama, no. You were grieving. You were in shock. You trusted the system. None of that is your fault.
She wiped her eyes. When this goes to trial, when they present all that evidence, I'm going to have to sit there and hear how they killed him. The details, the method, everything. You don't have to attend the trial. Yes, I do. I owe Thomas that much. I owe him the truth, and I owe him justice. And I owe him being there when they finally pay for what they did. Isaiah squeezed her hand. Then I'll be right there with you. At 8 a.m., a black SUV pulled up outside. 2 agents emerged. Isaiah met them on the porch. Captain Washington, I'm Agent Stevens. This is Agent Park. We'll be your protection detail. Stevens was early 40s, white guy, ex-military by the way he carried himself. Park was late 20s, Korean-American woman, sharp eyes that missed nothing. We'll maintain a perimeter, Stevens continued. One of us on the house at all times, the other mobile. You go somewhere, we follow. Someone approaches, we intervene. Questions? Rules of engagement? Stevens smiled slightly. We're not deployed, Captain, but if someone presents a credible threat, we're authorized to respond with appropriate force. That'll do. Isaiah went back inside. His phone was blowing up with messages. Friends from his SEAL days checking on him. Community members offering support. Media requests for interviews. And one message that made him pause. Unknown number. We need to talk. Not about threats. About your father. I knew him. I have information you need. Bethel AME Church, 10 a.m. Come alone. A friend. Isaiah showed it to Stevens. Could be a trap, Stevens said. Could be a witness. My father was active at that church. A lot of people there knew him. Then Agent Park and I will be in the church too. You go alone to the meeting, but we'll be close. At 9:45, Isaiah drove to Bethel AME. The church sat on a corner lot in South Memphis. White clapboard building with a tall steeple and stained glass windows that had survived 70 years of changing neighborhoods. His father had served on the board here. His mother still attended every Sunday. Isaiah parked in the lot. Stevens and Park pulled in 30 seconds later, parking across the street. Isaiah walked to the front doors, opened them, stepped inside. The sanctuary was empty, except for one man sitting in the front pew. Older, maybe 70, black man in a gray suit. He turned as Isaiah approached. Captain Washington, thank you for coming. Isaiah didn't recognize him. You said you knew my father. I did. Very well. My name is Reverend Samuel Cross. I was assistant pastor here when your father was on the board, before I transferred to a church in Little Rock. Isaiah sat 2 pews back, maintaining distance. What information do you have? Cross turned to face him fully. Your father came to me 3 weeks before he died. Said he was afraid. Said he'd been documenting the Caldwell's crimes for months and was ready to take it to the authorities. But he was worried they'd found out, that they were watching him. Isaiah's chest tightened. Did he say why he thought that? Strange phone calls, hang-ups at odd hours, cars following him, his workshop being searched while he was at work. Small things individually, but together they formed a pattern. Did he report it to police? He did. They took a statement, but said without direct threats, there wasn't much they could do. Your father understood. He wasn't looking for protection. He was creating a record, so when something happened, people would know it wasn't random. Cross reached into his jacket. Isaiah tensed, but the older man only pulled out a small key. The day before he died, Thomas gave me this. Said it opened a storage unit in Hickory Hill. Said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you when you came home. But you were deployed for so long, and then when you finally came back, I convinced myself maybe it wasn't necessary. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Thomas had been paranoid too. He held out the key. But then I saw the news yesterday, the arrests, the murder charges, and I realized Thomas wasn't paranoid. He was right. And I've been sitting on evidence for 3 years. Isaiah took the key.
What's in the storage unit?
I don't know. Thomas never told me. Just said it was everything he'd collected. Everything they couldn't be allowed to destroy. Why didn't you tell my mother? Cross's expression filled with guilt. Because I was scared. The Caldwells own half this city. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I let it go, maybe they'd leave me alone. I was a coward, Captain Washington. I let fear keep me silent when I should have spoken up. I'm sorry. Isaiah studied the key. Small, brass, numbered 247. You're speaking up now. Because you gave me courage. You stood up to them. You fought back. And if an old preacher can't find the guts to help after a Navy SEAL shows him how it's done, what kind of man am I? Isaiah stood. Reverend Cross, I need you to tell this to the FBI. All of it. The conversations with my father, the storage unit, everything. I will. I'll call them today. And Reverend, you weren't a coward. You were being smart. The Caldwells are dangerous. Staying alive to help later is sometimes braver than dying to help now. Cross smiled sadly. Your father used to say something similar. He was a wise man. I'm glad you take after him. Isaiah left the church. Stevens and Park were waiting outside. We need to check out a storage unit, Isaiah said. The Hickory Hill self-storage facility was 20 minutes away, a sprawling complex of orange metal buildings surrounded by chain-link fence. Isaiah showed the key at the office, got the location of Unit 247, and drove to the back of the complex. The unit was climate-controlled, 10 by 10, secured with a heavy padlock. Isaiah inserted the key. The lock clicked open. He rolled up the door. Inside were 4 filing cabinets, 3 boxes of documents, and the corkboard covered with photographs and newspaper clippings connected by red string. His father's investigation. Preserved. Waiting. Isaiah stepped inside. Stevens and Park took up positions at the entrance, keeping watch. The first filing cabinet contained property records. Every foreclosure, every suspicious sale, every zoning manipulation from 1980 to 2013. Thomas Washington had documented all of it, cross-referenced and annotated. The second cabinet held financial records, bank statements, tax returns, corporate filings. Isaiah didn't know how his father had obtained some of these, but they showed money flowing from legitimate businesses into shell companies and offshore accounts. The third cabinet was witness statements, dozens of them, people who'd lost their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods to Caldwell schemes. Each one signed and dated, each one a piece of the larger pattern. The fourth cabinet made Isaiah's blood run cold. Death certificates, 23 of them, people who died within 6 months of opposing the Caldwells. Heart attacks, car accidents, suicides, accidental falls, all ruled non-suspicious, all conveniently timed. His father had highlighted 6 in red, the ones that matched Sentinel Solutions' operational periods, according to the dates on Jacob Voss's documents. Thomas Washington had known. Maybe not the specifics, maybe not the proof, but he'd known. He'd seen the pattern. And he'd kept investigating anyway, knowing it might get him killed. Isaiah pulled out his phone, called Agent Brooks. I found my father's investigation. Everything. 23 possible murders, hundreds of victims, complete financial trail. It's all here. Brooks was silent for a moment. Where's here? Storage unit in Hickory Hill. I'm securing it now. But you need to see this. Today. I'm on my way. Don't touch anything else. This is a crime scene now. Isaiah stepped outside the unit. Stevens and Park were talking quietly, but stopped when they saw his face. "You okay, Captain?" Park asked. "My father spent the last year of his life building the case that could have brought down the Caldwells. He died before he could present it. Now I get to finish what he started." "That's poetic justice," Stevens said. "It's just justice. The poetic part doesn't matter." FBI evidence technicians arrived 40 minutes later. They photographed everything, cataloged every document, carefully packed everything for transport. Agent Brooks supervised, her expression getting grimmer with each new box loaded into the van. "This is incredible," she said to Isaiah. "Your father was a better investigator than half my agents. If he'd been able to present this—" "He'd have been killed sooner," Isaiah finished. "The Caldwells couldn't let this go public, so they eliminated the threat." "Well, they failed, because now we have it. And combined with everything else, this case just became unlosable." Isaiah's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. "Captain Washington, this is Bernard Sterling, attorney for Victor Caldwell." Isaiah's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" "To offer you a deal. Drop your testimony. Convince the other witnesses to do the same. In exchange, Mr. Caldwell will pay you $15 million. Tax-free. Transferred to any account you specify. You can take your mother somewhere safe. Start over. Never think about Memphis again." "My testimony isn't for sale." $20 million. "No amount of money." $25 million, Captain Washington. That's my final offer. Think about it. Think about your mother. Think about the life you could give her. Think about— Isaiah ended the call. Immediately called Agent Brooks. "Victor's lawyer just tried to bribe me. $25 million to drop my testimony." Brooks smiled coldly. "Perfect. That's witness tampering. Obstruction of justice. Thank you for recording it." "I didn't record it." "Your phone did. Federal Protection Detail comes with automatic call recording for exactly this reason. We've got every word. I'll have a warrant for Sterling's arrest by this afternoon." Isaiah felt a grim satisfaction. "They're making this easy." "Desperate people make mistakes, and the Caldwells are very desperate right now." By 2 p.m., Bernard Sterling was arrested at his office. By 3 p.m., Marcus Caldwell's bail was denied after the judge learned about the witness intimidation attempts. By 4 p.m., every news outlet in Tennessee was running the story. Caldwell attorney arrested for bribery. Breaking new evidence in Memphis murder case. Navy SEAL's father murdered by real estate mogul. Isaiah sat in his mother's living room, watching the coverage. Lorraine sat beside him, hand in his. "This is really happening," she said quietly. "It really is. They're going to fight harder now, get more desperate." "I know. Are you ready for that?" Isaiah thought about his father's storage unit, about 23 dead people who'd opposed the Caldwells, about Reverend Cross's 3 years of silence, about Jakob Voss's documents and Dorothy's archives and Robert's database access, and every single person who'd helped build this case. "Mama, I've been ready for this my whole life. I just didn't know it until now." His phone rang again, this time a number he recognized. Andre. "Turn on Channel 7, right now." Isaiah grabbed the remote, switched channels. The local news anchor was interviewing someone via satellite. A woman, mid-50s, white, professional suit. "That's Catherine Winters," Andre said through the phone. "Former CFO of Caldwell Properties. She left the company in 2019, signed an NDA, took a settlement. Nobody's heard from her since." On screen, Catherine Winters was speaking. "I'm here today to break my non-disclosure agreement. I don't care about the legal consequences. I can't stay silent anymore. For 17 years, I managed the finances for Caldwell Properties. I saw things, did things I'm not proud of, but I kept quiet because I was scared." The anchor leaned forward. "What kind of things, Ms. Winters?" "Money laundering, tax evasion, bribes to city officials, payment to private contractors for purposes that were never explained, but everyone understood. I kept 2 sets of books, one for the IRS, one for the real operations. Victor Caldwell approved everything. Do you have proof? I have copies of everything. Bank records, wire transfers, emails, memos. I kept them as insurance. Now I'm giving them to the FBI. Isaiah felt his heart rate accelerate. This was huge. This was a former insider confirming everything from within. On screen, the anchor asked, "Why come forward now?" Catherine Winters' expression hardened. "Because I saw the news about Thomas Washington, about how Victor had him killed. And I realized I'd been complicit in funding that murder. The $2 million paid to Sentinel Solutions? I processed that transfer. I coded it as security consultation. I knew what it meant. I knew, and I did nothing. And Thomas Washington died because people like me chose money over morality." She looked directly into the camera. "So I'm done being quiet. Victor Caldwell is a murderer. His son is a criminal. And I'm going to help put them both in prison for the rest of their lives." The interview ended. Isaiah sat stunned. "Brother," Andre said through the phone, "that just changed everything. An insider testimony with documentary evidence? Victor's lawyers can't spin their way out of that." Isaiah's phone started buzzing with calls and texts. Agent Brooks, the U.S. attorney, news reporters, everyone trying to reach him. But he ignored them all, turned to his mother. "Mama, it's happening. They're crumbling. The whole empire is coming apart." Lorraine's eyes filled with tears. "Your father would be so proud." "He'd be proud of you too, for being strong, for not giving up." She pulled him into a hug, held him tight the way she had when he was a child scared of the dark, when he was a teenager leaving for boot camp, when he was a man coming home from war. "We're going to win this, aren't we?" she whispered. "We already have, Mama. Victor just doesn't know he's dead yet." At 6 p.m., Victor Caldwell violated his bail conditions by attempting to flee the country. He was arrested at Memphis International Airport with a private jet fueled and ready, a fake passport, and $20 million in bearer bonds. His bail was revoked. He was remanded to federal custody pending trial. At 7 p.m., 3 more former Caldwell employees came forward with evidence. At 8 p.m., the Tennessee Attorney General announced a state-level investigation into corruption and racketeering. At 9 p.m., the IRS announced they were auditing 40 years of Caldwell Properties tax returns. The empire was collapsing, faster than Isaiah had dreamed possible, faster than anyone expected. But wars don't end when you win the first battle. They end when the enemy can't fight anymore. And somewhere in a federal detention cell, Victor Caldwell was already planning his next move. Because men who'd spent 40 years building power don't surrender it without one final fight. And that fight was coming. Isaiah could feel it. The trial started on a Monday morning in late November. Isaiah sat in the front row of the federal courthouse, his mother beside him, both dressed in their Sunday best. Behind them, the gallery was packed with families the Caldwells had destroyed over 40 years. Dorothy Hayes and her sister, Robert Hayes and his children, Reverend Cross, Catherine Winters, dozens of others who'd finally found their courage. Victor Caldwell entered through a side door in an orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed, flanked by 2 U.S. Marshals. His expensive suits were gone. His arrogance was not. He met Isaiah's eyes across the courtroom and smiled, cold, confident, like a man who still believed money could save him. Marcus followed a minute later, looking smaller somehow, thinner. His face was pale, his hands shook. He wouldn't meet anyone's gaze. Judge Margaret Torres took the bench. Latina woman, late 50s, former prosecutor who'd built a reputation for being fair but unforgiving. She looked at the packed courtroom and spoke. This trial concerns charges of conspiracy to commit murder, racketeering, and multiple counts of fraud spanning 4 decades. We will proceed with dignity and order. Anyone who disrupts these proceedings will be removed. Is that understood? The gallery murmured agreement. Then let's begin. Prosecution, your opening statement. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Martinez stood. She'd spent 3 months preparing this case. Isaiah had watched her transform boxes of evidence into a narrative so damning that even Victor's team of 12 lawyers looked worried. Your Honor, members of the jury, this case is about power. How it's gained, how it's wielded, and what happens when it operates without conscience for 40 years. She walked to the jury box, made eye contact with each of the 12 citizens who'd been chosen to decide Victor Caldwell's fate. The evidence will show that Victor Caldwell murdered Thomas Washington. Not in a moment of passion, not in self-defense, but through a calculated contract with professional killers. Why? Because Thomas Washington was documenting the Caldwell family's crimes. Because he was preparing to expose them. Because he stood in the way of profit. Martinez pulled up the first exhibit on a screen. The Sentinel Solutions contract. Victor's signature, clear at the bottom. You will see this document, a murder-for-hire agreement. $2 million to eliminate a community organizer whose only crime was fighting for his neighbors. She advanced to the next slide. Thomas Washington's death certificate. You will see this death certificate, initially ruled natural causes, but you will also see the original medical examiner's report, the one Victor Caldwell paid to have revised, the one that showed clear signs of induced cardiac arrest. Next slide. Bank transfers. You will see these payments. $2 million flowing from Caldwell Holdings through 4 shell companies to Sentinel Solutions, dated 2 weeks before Thomas Washington's death. She turned to face Victor directly. And you will hear from witnesses, former employees who processed these payments, private contractors who received them, federal agents who traced them. Every link in the chain that connects Victor Caldwell to murder. Martinez walked back to the prosecution table. By the end of this trial, you will have no doubt. Victor Caldwell is a murderer, and justice demands he pay for that crime with the rest of his life. She sat down. The defense attorney stood immediately. Franklin Garrett, 70 years old, silver hair, custom Italian suit, legendary in Tennessee legal circles. He'd defended governors and CEOs, and won cases everyone said were unwinnable. Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Franklin Garrett, and I represent Victor Caldwell, a man who has been unfairly vilified by a media circus and an ambitious prosecutor looking to make headlines. He smiled warmly at the jury. Yes, you will see documents. Yes, you will hear from witnesses. But you will also see how those documents can be misinterpreted, how those witnesses can be mistaken, how a tragic death can be weaponized by people with an agenda. Garrett walked toward Isaiah, gestured at him. Captain Isaiah Washington is a hero. No one disputes that. He served our country with distinction. But he's also a grieving son, looking for someone to blame for his father's death. And grief can cloud judgment. It can make us see patterns where none exist. It can make us transform coincidence into conspiracy. Isaiah's jaw clenched, but he didn't react otherwise. The prosecution wants you to believe that Victor Caldwell, a respected businessman, a philanthropist, a pillar of this community, suddenly became a cold-blooded murderer. Why? Over some property disputes? Some business dealings? Does that make sense? Garrett turned back to the jury. I submit that it does not. What makes sense is that Thomas Washington, a good man by all accounts, suffered a tragic but natural death. That his son, unable to accept that tragedy, constructed an elaborate theory to explain it. And that overzealous prosecutors, eager for a high-profile conviction, ran with that theory without properly vetting the evidence. He walked back to the defense table. I ask you to keep an open mind, to examine the evidence critically, to remember that in America, we are innocent until proven guilty, and the prosecution has not proven guilt. They've proven only that they want very badly to believe their own story. Garrett sat. Victor leaned over, whispered something. Garrett nodded. Judge Torres spoke. Prosecution, call your first witness. The United States calls Dr. Richard Chen. The medical examiner who'd performed Thomas Washington's original autopsy walked to the stand. He was 58 now, graying, but his memory was sharp. Dr. Chen, Martinez began, did you perform an autopsy on Thomas Washington in June 2013? I did. What were your findings? Initially, I ruled the cause of death as acute myocardial infarction, heart attack. Initially, but not finally? Correct. My preliminary report noted several anomalies. Petechial hemorrhaging in the eyes. Elevated potassium levels inconsistent with natural cardiac arrest. Signs of struggle inconsistent with a man dying peacefully in his workshop. Martinez showed him a document. Is this your preliminary report? Dr. Chen studied it. Yes, this is what I submitted to the county coroner. And is this the final report that was filed? She showed him another document. Same header, same date. Different conclusions. This is the final version, but I did not write these conclusions. The anomalies I noted were removed. The cause of death was simplified to natural causes. I was told the revisions came from the coroner's office directly. Did you protest these changes? Dr. Chen looked down. I should have, but I was 3 years from retirement. I had a family to support, and the man who requested the changes was well connected, so I stayed quiet. Who requested the changes, Dr. Chen? I never saw him personally, but the coroner told me it came from legal counsel representing the family. They wanted a clean death certificate for insurance purposes. I was told it was routine. And now? Now I know I was complicit in covering up a murder. I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. Garrett cross-examined for 2 hours, trying to establish that the anomalies could have been post-mortem changes, that Dr. Chen's memory might be faulty after 13 years, that the revisions might have been legitimate medical judgment rather than corruption. But Dr. Chen held firm. The original report stood. The evidence of murder was clear. The prosecution called Jacob Voss next. He appeared via secure video conference from an undisclosed location. Face slightly pixelated, voice modulated. The jury could see and hear him, but his identity remained protected, per the agreement with the U.S. Attorney. Mr. Voss, can you state your profession? I provide security consulting services to private clients. Have you ever worked for a company called Sentinel Solutions? I have. 3 contracts between 2011 and 2014. Did you become aware of a contract between Sentinel Solutions and Victor Caldwell? I did. In April 2013, Sentinel was hired to eliminate Thomas Washington. The contract specified cardiac event simulation, death appearing natural. How do you know this? I maintained copies of all Sentinel contracts as insurance. When I learned about the Washington contract, I severed ties with the company. Why? I don't work for people who target civilians for business disputes. That crosses a professional line I won't cross. Martinez showed him the contract. Is this the document you provided to federal authorities? It is. Garrett objected repeatedly during Voss's testimony, arguing hearsay, Lack of foundation, witness credibility. Judge Torres overruled most objections, but sustained enough to make it clear she was being careful. "Mr. Voss," Garrett said on cross-examination, "you're a mercenary, are you not?" "I'm a private security consultant." "Who kills people for money?" "I've eliminated hostile targets under lawful contracts in foreign jurisdictions." "So yes, you kill people for money." Voss's expression didn't change. "When the situation warrants it." "And you expect this jury to believe that you suddenly developed a conscience about Thomas Washington?" "I didn't develop a conscience. I've always had one. I simply choose not to accept contracts that violate it." "How convenient. And how did you obtain these documents if you weren't involved in the contract?" "I maintained access to Sentinel's database after leaving. They failed to revoke my credentials." "So you hacked into their system." "I accessed information to which I still had legitimate passwords. That's not hacking." "And you kept these documents for 13 years before coming forward?" "I kept them as insurance. I came forward when someone capable of using them properly emerged." Garrett pressed for another hour, but couldn't shake Voss's testimony. The contract was real. The payments were real. Victor's signature was real. After the call, Isaiah sat quietly, thinking about his father, about the letter offering Victor Caldwell redemption, about choosing a different legacy. 3 years ago, Marcus Caldwell had slapped an elderly black woman over bacon. That single act of casual cruelty had triggered a chain reaction that destroyed a criminal empire, exposed systemic corruption, and rebuilt a community. But more than that, it had revealed something fundamental about power and justice and the choices that define who we become. Victor Caldwell had chosen cruelty and died in a cage. Thomas Washington had chosen courage and lived forever in the community he'd tried to save. And Isaiah Washington had chosen something harder than either. He'd chosen to fight monsters without becoming one, to serve justice without worshiping vengeance, to remember that every victory meant nothing if you lost yourself achieving it. His phone buzzed. Text from General Thompson. "Dallas case is ready. Target is a U.S. congressman. This one's going to be rough. You ready?" Isaiah looked at the photo of his parents on his desk, his father's arm around his mother's shoulders, both of them smiling, both of them gone now, in different ways. But their legacy remained, in the foundation bearing his father's name, in the community fighting back, in the son who'd learned that true strength wasn't destroying your enemies, but building something they could never break. Isaiah typed his response. "I'm ready. Let's bring them down. Because some fights never end. Corruption doesn't die. It just changes faces and moves to new cities and finds new victims. But now those victims had a champion, a Navy SEAL who'd learned warfare in the deserts of the Middle East and brought those lessons home to fight a different kind of enemy. An enemy that thought money made them untouchable, that power meant freedom from consequence, that cruelty was just the cost of doing business. They were wrong, and Isaiah Washington spent every day proving it. Not for revenge, not for glory, not even for justice, really. For his father, for his mother, for every family the powerful had broken and every community they destroyed. For the simple truth that someone has to stand up. Someone has to fight back. Someone has to prove that no matter how much money you have, or how many politicians you own, or how untouchable you think you are, eventually accountability comes. And when it does, it comes with the full force of a warrior who never forgot where he came from, or why he fights. Marcus Caldwell learned that lesson when he slapped Lorraine Washington. Victor Caldwell learned it when he died alone in a prison cell. And every corrupt billionaire, Every dirty politician, every predator hiding behind power was about to learn it too. Because Isaiah Washington was coming for them all. And warriors like him don't stop until the war is won.